Hey friend, it's So from So's Real Thoughts, and we are here to talk about this week's episode of Mr. Robot. But first things first, if you did not tune into my recap/review of last week's episode, I will link it up here and down below. So definitely check into that before you tune back into this episode. Alrighty, so this was episode 4, season 3 of Mr. Robot, called Metadata Part 2. And basically this episode starts right after the second episode, where we find that Elliot found Darlene's safe house. He goes in, it literally starts right from that scene. He goes in, Darlene comes in, he's like, what the fuck are you doing here? And he's trying to figure out why she hacked him. And basically they spill the beans on mostly everything, mostly from Elliot's part to Darlene. He explains that phase 2 is still going on and that he's been trying to stop it. And he, instead of just calling the FBI on them, he wants to finish them himself, considering that he started it. And he wants to see where this leads. And so he asked Darlene to stay next door to his apartment to help him, mostly follow him at night when he becomes Mr. Robot, to see where he's going so they can track down Tyrell and whatnot. Meanwhile, Angela meets up with Irving at the Ribs place, and he says this Operation Phase 2 needs to go down September 29th, 10 days from now, upcoming Monday. That they had to move the timeline, but that's what's happening. And at this point, she feels like, it seems like she's a little apprehensive, but she's like, all right, we'll get it done. There's some dude that gets busted by the FBI because he is mimicking F Society, and when Dom questions him, like, who's your leader? And she names all these names, and when it comes to White Rose's name, he flinches, and so she thinks it's way bigger than everything else. Also, why would an F Society guy give himself up so easily and not cover his tracks? He did say his leader was F Society, but obviously Dom does not believe him. Elliot turns into Mr. Robot at night, and Darlene follows him. Darlene finds out that he's meeting up with Angela, and that's kind of like a mind fuck for her, because who knew in Darlene's mind that Angela and Mr. Robot were working together. Mr. Robot goes to meet Angela and Tyrell in the warehouse, and Tyrell's freaking the fuck out and saying, like, I can't work with Elliot anymore. They found out about how Elliot is delaying the shipments and whatnot, and at this point, Tyrell's like, you're cut off, like, we can't work together, you're just a fucking fool, we thought we were gonna be gods together, but we're not. He's like, I loved you. Still probably loves him. And then Mr. Robot snaps, he like chokes Tyrell, and I think the inner Elliot stops him, and I think it's such that visceral action of choking somebody and nearly killing them jolts Elliot back into consciousness, and Angela realizes that Elliot is back, and Elliot sees that Angela and Tyrell are in this warehouse, and he's like, what the hell is going on, Angela? And Angela, her hard exterior kind of sheds, and she's like, Elliot, everything's gonna be all right. And you see her jab him with a needle, trying to sedate him to go back to Mr. Robot. Tyrell talks to Irving, says he's gonna just finish the job all by himself to make sure that him and his wife and son will be able to go to Ukraine by Monday, the day of the hack, so he can just, like, zip off to safety. Angela asks Philip Price to fire Elliot, and Angela goes back to the living room where we see Mr. Robot, and she tells him to stay over the weekend during the hack because shit's gonna go down and he cannot be seen. So that is basically where the episode ends. My two favorite scenes is obviously every time Darlene and Elliot have a heart-to-heart. This time on the streets, they hug. They are embracing one another. I love when they do that. Second is when Elliot wakes up and he sees Angela and Tyrell together, and him being so disoriented by them being together, and I like the editing, how it goes back and forth, and how it feels very, you can really feel him jolting back into consciousness. Love those two scenes. I honestly think this episode was a filler episode. Things did happen. You get to dive in deeper. You could also tell this is the episode where Darlene is really battling with her consciousness, her morality, and what she thinks is right or wrong, because in the end, nobody's gonna come out unscathed. And I guess from the opening shot where she's in the subway and the girl robs her to only taking that photo, and in the end scene, she places that exact family photo up on Elliot's bookshelf. It shows you what she values most in life, and it's her family. And it's just like, oh my god, things are going to happen, and she may just lose it all, which is the most tragic part in this episode. So yeah, this being a pre-episode to next week's probably insane episode of when the data gets shipped to the right place and the explosion happens. That I am hoping will happen next week. And so I somewhat think this episode is kind of creeping up to the big reveal. There is still really good information, like the fact that who the fuck is this guy pretending to be F Society? Is he being set up by White Rose, or is he another imposter that just wants to get fame because they found him so easily through his Vimeo link? I know at this point people do not trust Angela, but I feel like I trust her a little bit, especially when it feels like she has good intentions for Elliot in the grand scheme of things. I know she's a good person, because when she asked Irving, like, are there going to be people evacuated by the time they blow up the building? And the person that we can't trust is Irving, because Irving's like, yeah, of course everyone's going to be out. I don't trust you. Angela, on the other hand, I know she's just doing this just so she can fulfill and seek revenge out for her parents, her mom, and I feel like this is the only way she can get resolution and closure from her mom's death. So I get it, but I still think even with her ill intentions, she still has some feelings and is protective of Elliot, and she will do whatever she can to maintain those two things as much as possible. But at the same time, it's like, could she accomplish phase 2 and not hurt Elliot? Like, I don't know what is happening. I thought for a second when Tyrell was like, I need one last thing from you, I thought he was gonna say, I need you to kill Elliot. Instead, he said, I need full force of the Dark Army behind him, which we'll see what happens. I mean, next week's episode is going to be a big one. We see Darlene kind of wanting to go back to living a normal life. She looks at tickets to Budapest and she just dreams of that life. Obviously, that is not going to happen. Not in this series. Maybe not soon. Maybe it might. Who knows? I know for sure that really Elliot needs to like take this overdrive, especially because phase 2 is gonna happen so soon and people are against him. So yeah, I mean, mostly I can't wait for next week's episode because I feel like it's going to be a big one. What will happen to Darlene? What will happen to Elliot? Will Elliot wake up right before phase 2? Will Angela really ensure that everybody's evacuated the building? And if not, will she turn on Irving? And what will happen to Irving? Because he's obviously not a great guy. And at the same time, we know that Dom is on this fraud dude who's who's trying to come off as of society. She can smell it. And like Darlene says, Darlene can track down Tyrell. She just has to do it alone. Dom's not with it. But I think that scene with her and Dom in the bar was a really crucial scene, because it was like her one last moment of being a regular person, just getting to know and talking to a person about trivial things before she knows the impending doom that is about to occur. You know, like when shit hits the fan, everyone's not gonna come out of this safely. So yeah, this was a pretty short and sweet recap / review. I feel like my reviews have been really long, so I've been trying to keep it a little bit more terse. But luckily, this episode was, like I said, short and sweet. It went by really quick. There wasn't too much dense information, just besides the fact that Elliot woke up and he sees Angela and Tyrell. What will Elliot do now he knows that Angela drugged him? Will he finally be like, oh, Angela's not on my side, and turn on her? I don't know. A lot of questions, a lot of answers that I'm still hoping to get next episode. It's gonna be a good one. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys have any remarks, statements about this episode? Mostly we're just waiting for the next one. So, yeah. Anyways, be sure to check out my blog, www.sosrealthoughts.com, for all the previous episodes. And yep, I will tune in and see you guys next week, because yeah, I'm gonna really have to get popcorn ready for next week. Oh my god. The insanity is about to go down. Okay, I will see you guys next week. Bye.